What is a good life, and what does it even mean to be good? This is a question mankind has asked since ancient times and will continue to ask well into the future. And I'm sure we've all thought about what it means to be good and how best to live our lives, whether it be in the shower, in the classroom, wherever. At some point, these questions have crossed our minds. It's only human. So, today, I hope to give one potential answer to the question, what is a good life? Utilitarianism. So, what is utilitarianism? Utilitarianism is a philosophy that falls under the school of ethics. It aims to provide an answer to the question of what it means to be good and how best to live a good life. In utilitarianism, what is good is what brings happiness and what is bad brings pain. So, pleasure is a good thing in utilitarianism and pain is bad. As a result, we should maximize pleasure and minimize pain. But what does it really mean to maximize pleasure and minimize pain? Is there a way to actually know whether or not we've maximized the pleasure or minimized the pain in a given situation? The best way to illustrate this would be through trains. Normal people see a train here, but philosophers see a dilemma. More specifically, the trolley dilemma. The trolley dilemma goes like this. You as a person have the choice to either let a trolley go and hit 5 people in the train track that it's on, or divert it so that it only hits 1 person. What would you do in that situation? A utilitarian would say to pull the lever so that it hits the 1 person, saving 5 people. This is because, according to utilitarianism, the happiness of the majority is more important than the happiness of a single individual. It weighs everybody's happiness equally, and so 5 people being happy is more important than just 1 person being happy. So, in any given situation, a utilitarian would prioritize the majority over the minority. However, with different utilitarians, this idea differs. So, let's look at the history of utilitarianism so that we can understand different thinkers and their thought process as to what utilitarianism should be. We will cover 2 of the most famous and modern utilitarian philosophers and their ideas on what utilitarianism is. Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham is known as the founder of modern utilitarianism. Bentham claimed that mankind is led by pain and pleasure. So everything that motivates our actions is either linked to pain or it's linked to pleasure. This created a huge critique about utilitarianism, as people like to believe that they are beyond just physical pleasure, especially when considering things like Christianity being very prevalent. To Bentham, all pleasure was equal. There was no pleasure that was higher or lower than the other. As a result, he did not distinguish between quality of pleasure and only focused on the quantity. And this is why he developed the hedonic calculus, which was a measurement to see how much pleasure is derived from a specific action. If that action brought the most pleasure, then that action is considered the good action as opposed to the alternative. Now, Jeremy Bentham was followed by John Stuart Mill, who was actually his godson. John Stuart Mill tried to improve Bentham's work. One of the key ways that John Stuart Mill tried to improve Bentham's work was through the distinction of pleasure into higher and lower pleasures. Previously, Bentham had not distinguished between higher and lower pleasures and only focused on the quantity of pleasure derived, hence his hedonic calculus. However, this brought many critiques to say that it likened human beings to pigs. Higher pleasures to Stuart Mill required the use of human faculties for things that only humans can do, such as learning philosophy or reading a book. Those were considered higher pleasures. And lower pleasures were things that were carnal, so something like eating food. Unlike Bentham, Mill's way of calculating higher and lower pleasures were more difficult and less concrete than the hedonic calculus. So, here are some of the strengths of utilitarianism. A major strength of utilitarianism is that it just feels right. It feels natural to know that a happy day is a good day and a bad day is a painful day. And the other strengths are that it treats people's pleasure equally, whilst also feeling intuitive to grasp. Here are some of the flaws of utilitarianism. One major flaw in utilitarianism is the fact that it can lead to tyranny of the majority, which essentially means that the majority in a situation takes precedence over the minority. And so, for example, if the majority wanted to oppress the minority, if that made them happy, then utilitarianism would allow that. Secondly, are all pleasures equal? Is the pleasure from harming someone better than the pleasure of doing good for someone? Thirdly, speculative ideas don't necessarily become reality. So, for example, with the hedonic calculus, just because it may calculate that it's going to maximize pleasure doesn't mean that it's actually going to be like that when it comes to reality. To summarize, utilitarianism is a consequentialist ideology that aims to provide an answer to what is a good life. It believes that pleasure is good and pain is bad. And so in order to live a good life, you should always do things that maximize your pleasure whilst minimizing your pain.